It sounds like the plot of a movie. A really good looking young guy in a teeny tiny European village gets a DM on Facebook. And the next thing you know, he's on his way to a career as a male model.
We always have an odd one in the crowd.
So it's kind of odd.
Decidedly odd.
Doesn't that strike you as a little bit odd?
No, that doesn't strike me as a little bit odd.
It's the Bob and Sheri Oddcast, with stuff we wouldn't, couldn't, or shouldn't do on the regular show. Now, here's the Oddcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Oddcast podcast. And today we have Mario Adrion, a former male model, now comedian, blogger, just all over social media. And we're going to be talking to him today. Welcome, Mario. How you doing?
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Mario, I love your origin story. You know, it's like something out of a rom-com. There he was, a strapping, handsome young German boy in a small village when he was scouted and invited to America to become a male model. Is that really how it happened? That's amazing.
Pretty much, because I come from a small town in Germany. It's like a town of 800 people. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's called Alpirsbach im Hochschwarzwald.
Oh, yeah, of course. We were just talking about it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a super small town, and I was supposed to be a German engineer. That's what you do in my hometown. You know, either lumberjacking, engineering, or you become a German DJ. And that was like my life path. And it's literally all my friends who are back in Germany. All of them are either techno DJs or engineers now. It's not even a joke. Like my 8 closest friends, all of them have chosen one of those paths. So yeah, and then when I was like 18, I posted my first accidental thirst trap on Facebook. I just posted a photo of me shirtless at a swimming pool, and somehow a modeling scout in New York found that photo and reached out to me and was like, "Hey, gorgeous, you should come to New York and be a model." And he was like, "P.S. You can stay with me at my place in Harlem." And, you know, I'd never been to America. And I was just like, Harlem, that sounds so exotic, you know? So I went there, and that's how my journey started. It started with like being very naive and saying yes to life and just, you know, trying something new. And that's how this journey started.
Mario, what's the best part of this story for me is that everyone gets that, "Hello, gorgeous, you should be a model." And it turns out to be a pervert living in a basement. For you, it actually was a modeling agent, and you actually became a model. Yeah. Like that, it's the first and last and only time. Yeah. So, did your family, when you said, "I have received a DM in Facebook from a man offering to make me famous and allow me to live with him in New York City," did your parents go, "Well, let us help you pack, son," or did people think you were crazy?
Well, so my mom actually has a funny reaction to it. I told her, I was like, "Hey, mother, I want to become a male model." And my mom, no joke, the first thing she said, she looked at me. My mom's a very German mom. You know, we Germans are not that emotional. We're very like to the point, very blunt. You know, she just looked at me and she goes, "Yeah, Mario, you're not even that pretty." So literally, she told me that, and I didn't even want to be a model that bad, but when she told me that, I was like, okay, I'm going to prove my mother wrong. I'm going to make this happen one way or the other.
Tell us about your first week in the U.S.
It was weird because I remember I went into JFK, and then I took a train to Times Square. So the first thing I saw of New York was basically Times Square, which is wild when you come from a town of 800 people in Alpirsbach im Hochschwarzwald, you know? So that was crazy. There's just it was like the complete opposite, but I liked the pace. I like how it felt very efficient. You know, New York's very efficient. I was running around all day. I did so many things. And, you know, I always love meeting people. That's my favorite thing about modeling, was just connecting with strangers, meeting all these people. And that was a cool thing. You know, I met the photographers then, but then got signed with modeling agents. But it's also like, you know, you think you're beautiful back in my hometown, you know, but then you see your competition. I remember my first casting I went to. You see these people, and it's just like they have these perfect jawline, and I had like 6-pack abs. I saw this dude, no joke, he took off a shirt at a casting, Brazilian dude. He had 14 abs. I don't know how it's possible, but he had like, they just kept going. And then you question, you know, so I got rejected a lot also. It's like, you know, you come with a dream, you think, you know, you're going to be on a billboard for Calvin Klein, then reality sets in. And my first paid modeling job in New York actually was, it's a true story, for the online catalog of Target. fully dressed in a full bodysuit as a muffin. Yeah.
No.
It was it was 100%. It was a bunch of different outfits, but one of them was a muffin for a Halloween ad, like one of these costumes. And it was like a muffin costume, and on my head I had like a candle on my head, like a hat that had a candle on it. So that was like I made it moment as a male fashion model in New York.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask this, Mario. Did you send that snapshot to your mom and say, "See, I told you, I'm a model. I'm a model."
I told you, Mother, I can do it. Yeah, look at me now. I'm a muffin.
Let's talk about the transition, because I know it was sort of not all at once, your transition to comedy from the fast-paced and exciting world of muffin modeling in the Target catalog.
Exactly. So a couple things. First of all, I was like, and maybe this is subconscious, but I feel like I picked the one industry where I can finally be a 10. Because in modeling, I was rejected because I wasn't good looking enough. When I was a model, I was a 5 amongst these dudes with 14 abs. And now amongst other male comics, I can be a 10. So maybe that's like what drew me to comedy after all this rejection as a model. But also, I was always a very silly kid back in Germany. And I feel like I had to suppress that a little bit because, Germans were not known to be very funny. It's not a thing we Germans are good at. And then as a model, too, I had to be so serious. It was like this thing where you have to put on your blue steel look, be super serious, be this cool model. Yeah. And at some point I was like, no, I'm just gonna be me. So I started being more silly. And I started making YouTube videos, capturing my life as a model, which was like my comedic outlet. It was like, do you guys know the movie Zoolander?
Oh, it's one of my favorites. Yes. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So that's like literally my life. Like there's so many parallels. I mean, it's obviously an exaggeration, but it's very close to the reality I was living as a model. So I made these vlogs on YouTube, just being silly, going to Fashion Week, telling these guys, hey, do your catwalk, do your blue steel. And that kind of took off on YouTube. I posted a video called What Really Happens at New York Fashion Week and posted it more as a creative outlet and also as a memory for myself, like a travel video that I can show my grandkids at one point. And it took off. It got 100. I checked back a week later, had 150,000 views or something like that. And people really interested. And I was like, oh, they like me for my personality and being more silly. And I just kept making YouTube videos. And then I took an improv class because I really liked, challenging myself, doing more creative things. And through improv, I then found a intro to stand-up class at Second City. And that's really when I first did stand-up and I told a story in front of it was like a class of 10 people. I told a story. I was like, oh, this is different than even making a video that has 1 million views. It's not as impactful as telling a story to 10 people that you can see and feel in the room, and that's when I transitioned to comedy. It was about 4 years ago.
So you went from New York to LA. I mean, you're having the most iconic American showbiz dream experience, really, when you think about it. He lands he goes to Times Square, then he's in Hollywood. I mean, it's trippy to imagine. There must be days where you wake up and think, how in the world is this my life? How did I get here?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It happens step by step. And it's always weird when I go back to my hometown and then, it's just, I sometimes don't think about how strange it is because it's truly, to give you perspective, people in my hometown usually stay in my hometown. It's truly a town of less than 1,000 people. So people usually, we have great jobs there, Mercedes, BMW, all these jobs are right around there. So people don't even going to Berlin, which is the capital, right? It's a big deal. People don't do that. And then nonetheless, going to New York and then LA. So yeah, when I talk to my friends at home, I realize how shocked they are by this whole, lifestyle. For me now, it's kind of been normalized, but I always love going back to my hometown. I need that silence, just being in the forest, helping my uncles chop wood in the forest. Yeah, like a balance.
In your lederhosen while singing folk ballads.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's whatever you picture about Germany. It's pretty much what I was living. We would do these hikes on the 1st of May, and we'd all do these German. I was gonna say marching songs. It's more like hiking songs. It's not marching songs. Always sounds a little too German.
Yeah.
these, these German songs, like with my uncles, and yeah, truly, my uncle. He's like my mom is pretty much a lumberjack, so they very small town vibes, and yeah.
It sounds
So,
great, though. It really does.
yeah, I mean, coming from that world, which is, really very wholesome in so many ways,
Mhm.
to the modeling and the entertainment industry in the United States, which um, most people don't realize has so it's not just that it's ferociously competitive, it has such a dark side too. That must have come as, you're a grown man, you knew that, everything wasn't a Disney cartoon, but it must have come as a shock to discover that living in America is definitely dog eat dog. And in the entertainment and modeling industries, it's dog
Ooh.
eats dog and then eats dog's bones. Like, it's really
Oh,
tough out there.
oh, 100%. I had to learn that too because my hometown, we would leave the doors open. Like we would. I'm also that's why I'm so naive. Like when I first went to, I basically stayed at this guy's place in Harlem, which for an American, all alarm clocks start ringing, and you're like, oh no, you don't trust people. For me, it's just like I grew up in a town with no crime, essentially. Everybody knows everybody. I grew up in such a utopian little town, so that like I was very naive too. So when I came here, I sometimes had to be faced with the reality of, oh no, some of these people don't have my best interest in mind. Like with modeling specifically, there's a lot of people who take advantage of you, especially photographers who, have a lot of power, and a lot of young models are desperate. So there's definitely a lot of sexual harassment happening. Where I did like a bunch of underwear photo shoots, and you don't know how to act with that. Like when somebody you do like underwear photo shoot, and then he's like, "Oh, can I adjust your underwear a little bit?" And then they start kind of,
Yikes.
like
Yeah.
constantly like touching you. And I wish I could say that's like an outlier, but it happened so many times. And it's unfortunate I'm not the only one who had those experiences. And that's essentially also why at some point I quit modeling. It was because it just became too much of that, and it just became like this weird energy where I almost had to expect that somebody was going to be inappropriate at a photo shoot, which, because especially with men, I feel like a lot of, there's a lot of conversation with women around like Me Too and sexual harassment, which is great. But I think for a lot of men, people think you can just, do things to men and they won't talk about it because they're men. There's like this narrative that men, can't be victims and we can't talk about stuff. So yeah, that's definitely something I had to face. And that was, a big shift to my wholesome life in Alpirsbach. Yeah.
I'm really glad you called that out though, because there's such a culture of abuse, and there's a culture of silence, because the unspoken and sometimes spoken deal is, hey, you want to work? Then play ball. You've got to go along with this. And you're so right. And one of the things that we struggle with in American culture, and maybe it's true in Germany and everywhere, is people have a hard time wrapping their heads around the idea that a man is being victimized. That's that a man could be in that position. But what people don't stop to consider is that it's really all about power, right? And especially,
Absolutely.
as a new model coming into the business, no matter how blue your steel is, right? There's still that big power differential between the people that can make you a star and set you for life, and the people that can make sure that your phone doesn't ring again.
100%. Yeah. And that's the power dynamic also. And you don't know who has power. You don't know what the also, I had no guidance. I wish my agency had kind of warned me about this, but they just send you. I arrived in New York, did my first casting, didn't even know what a casting was. Like I had to Google it. I didn't know what's going to happen at a casting. I mean, I had an idea from like movies or whatever, but I just went in there, and they send you to casting, and sometimes you take photos. I don't know if somebody tells you, get in your underwear is this normal? Like I had no guidance, right? And then you're in New York, this photographer is all sometimes. It's also, and I will say this, like most photographers I've worked with were professional. Mainly though, when it comes to the very, when it was professional brands, like I worked a lot for Bloomingdale's and Macy's and Target, obviously for the muffin campaign. Obviously those were pretty professional because they're big corporations. But then some of these like more high fashion photographers that have like this power, right? Then they use it. And sometimes it's very blunt. Like you say, it's like, it's not even an unspoken thing. One time, and this happened, a photographer was like, "Hey, I'm going to shoot you for this big fashion campaign, like for the cover of a big magazine here in America. But if you want to get that, you have to do something for me, And
Ew.
he basically, he wanted to do some sexual thing. So it's so blunt and it's so in your face, and just like the confidence these guys have to make these suggestions tells you that they just feel invincible because the power they have. And sometimes even agencies won't talk up about it, won't even intervene, because those photographers have power, a lot of them, and they make the agencies money. So sometimes they even encourage. I had one agent, but he was almost saying that, like, if you go to this photographer's place, big fashion photographer, he has so much power. If he flirts with you, don't just go along with it a little bit, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's messed up in many ways. I think it's getting better. That more people are talking about it. That's why I want to talk about it too, because I want to, hopefully some young model who starts modeling now, who comes from a small town in whatever, Brazil, will not have the same experience.
The culture shock, right, of coming from a small town in Germany where you were on May 1st in the woods singing hiking songs, to finding yourself in Times Square in New York City, and in this really super predatory business where the promise of fame and fortune is always dangling just ever so slightly, almost in reach, but not quite. And the expectation that everything is for sale. I mean, thank God that you have all these other talents and that you were able to have such clarity about what your boundaries were, right? And what you were going to be willing to do for a living as a grown man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Once I started YouTube, I then felt less threatened by those people, because I was like, oh, I have another avenue. Like with YouTube, also modeling is very inconsistent financially, so it's very stressful. And then obviously the pressure to say yes to these photographers when they ask you for inappropriate things is just growing, because you don't have another. If modeling is all you have, you're much more likely to be influenced by those people. So then I started YouTube, and it gave me more autonomy, because I made my own content. I didn't need the cover of this magazine. I did not need to be a muffin on Target if I didn't want to. I can just shoot my own content. And I made it was great. It was really gave me so much power. And that's the privilege a lot of young models just don't have, because that's all they have is modeling. Yeah.
That secret is coming out more and more. Alan Richardson, that starred as Reacher on those 2 Netflix movies, he talked about it openly, that when he was a male model, that he's got wife and kids, he needs to bring in money. He understands that this photographer is holding his absolute kid's food in his hand by giving him or not giving him this job, and he was taking advantage of. And for somebody that's in the spotlight like he is, he had actually resulted almost to suicide. But for him to speak out about it starts to really let that be not a secret anymore. And maybe that will help, curb that some. But yeah, more and more people are talking about it. And for him to talk about it, it gives it a big spotlight. It really, really does. I watched your video, and I was very moved by the video. And it took a lot of courage to do what you did, to tell that story on the video, and I applaud you for it. It was something you needed to tell. It was something that other people needed to hear, and it took a lot of courage. And you were very, very good for that. It was awesome.
Thank you, appreciate that. No, I just read this article with I forgot his name, but the guy on Reacher, Alan is his name.
Yes, Richardson.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's especially for a guy like him who's a very alpha, hyper masculine, because we have this image of men having to be these stoic alpha males who are don't show any emotion, are not vulnerable. So I think especially for people like him who are represented as hyper masculine, I think it's great, and I'm very was very impressed by his article. That was great.
Travis was the first person I ever told about what happened, that I actually had been sexually assaulted. And Travis is that Travis is my best friend. I love him so much. He's probably the person I trust the most and I have the most open relationship with at this point. The reason why I don't make this video is just that I want to encourage people to talk to somebody. Even if you have some sort of anxiety or some doubt about yourself, you should talk about it. Even if you're a man, even if you're a football player, a straight guy or whatever, I can just say how much it helped me now looking back, just voicing it and talking about it, and now even doing this video. I feel like this is such a big step and such a relief.
So let's shift gears a little bit and tell us about what some of your favorite American things are that you discovered since coming from. I can't pronounce the name of the small village in Germany where you.
Hochschwarzwald, yeah.
I should, yes.
just Google it. Good luck. My favorite things about America. Okay, I love diners. Diners.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have that in Germany, and it's so funny because to me, diners are such an American thing. Because I grew up watching all these like American movies, like Grease and high school movies, like where you have you're in like what's it called, like one of these college jackets, and you fall in love with you have a date with a cheerleader or something, and you have a milkshake.
You split it with the 2 straws.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. The 2 straws, 100%. And we don't have diners in Germany at all. We have like Bratwurst and, like we have a Wirtshaus. So it's so cool. And I love, and when I come to America, like especially when I drive, like I've mainly been in big cities here, but I'm starting a comedy tour right now. So I've been driving through some smaller towns. And I love the diners because it's so funny. Like, I think I look at diners like you guys look at castles in Europe. Because
yes.
Like, you guys are like, because we don't have that. Like, we have tons of. I grew up with like, I'm getting married next year. I had a castle. I looked at castles. We have like, there's like 6 castles within like an hour from my hometown, right? So like, there's so many castles. We don't have diners though. So I go to America. I'm like, oh, it's a diner. It's so beautiful. There's a booth and stuff like that. I'm like, so impressed by that stuff. So diners, love them. I don't know. The food is not even like, but I don't know. It's something is, and I do like the food too. It's like pancakes. What pancakes at like 8 p.m.? That's crazy. It's just we don't have that. It's so different from German culture. Yeah.
Although the Germans, you have something that in German culture that we are so jealous of. There is a German word for every feeling, no matter how random and specific, right? And we may have pancakes at 8 p.m. in diners where you can share a malted with a cheerleader, but we do not have the perfect word for everything the way Germans do. And there must be things that you miss about home. I mean, one thing that is so true of American life, it just moves so fast. Like every day feels like it has 25 hours worth of stuff packed into it and so much pressure. Was that kind of a weird thing for you to encounter coming from a European culture that is a little more, I don't know, inclined to let people live and not just work them to death?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's more balanced in Europe. I think the whole outlook on life, the work-life balance. I mean, famously so in terms of vacation days in Europe. Like it's mandatory to have, I think, at least 32 vacation days a year. And then there's tons of like, what's called like national holidays, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The main thing I would say, like, I do work a lot. Like I'm very efficient and I'm very structured. So I like this pace. I like this hustle culture in some regards. What I do miss a lot about Germany is the silence. And this might be more effective living in a big city like LA or New York, but man, when I go to my hometown at 9 p.m., you walk outside, you don't hear a single sound. Like there's not even I'm in New York right now, and as I'm recording this, right, and I hear there's like sirens, I hear like an AC humming somewhere. There's always a constant sound, and in Germany, I just miss this, and I don't realize until I'm in Germany, where I'm like, wow, there's truly not a single sound. There's something so calming about that, and I do miss that. Right. And I'm sure you can find that in America too, in like smaller towns. But that nature silence is truly something I miss. That's why I have to go back to Germany every half year. I have to go back and take a little break from America, from the work hustle, but also from the noise here.
Yeah.
I have to ask because your English is so perfect. I assume that you started as a little kid in school in Germany. Speaking English, you probably speak at least one other language on top of that. That's something we don't do here in the USA.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, in Germany, we had to learn English mandatory. That's the first language I had to learn. And then I started learning English when I was like, I don't know, not that early, actually. I think I was like 13 years old or something like that.
Wow.
And I grew up speaking French. And then I took a year abroad in South America to speak Spanish, which is not even that, I'm not saying this to brag, it's like very common in Germany and Europe. Like, because my hometown is about 20 minutes from the French border. So French is kind of like, it's very present. And but English, It's funny. Like I think I learned most of my English by watching American TV shows. I watched the TV show How I Met Your Mother. That was the first American TV show I watched. Truly, like it's so funny, but like a lot of my vocabulary comes from watching that show. Because when I first learned English, I watched that show with German subtitles at first. Then at some point after a couple episodes, I switched to English subtitles, and at some point no subtitles. And that's truly, I think, one of the best ways to learn a language is just to watch a TV show in that language with subtitles. So that was great. And then I travel a lot. When I was 18, I took a year off after high school, and I went to New Zealand, and I lived there for a year. And I did a bunch of odd jobs. Like I was a kiwi picker. I was a sales agent. Like I did door-to-door sales, and I was a shirtless bartender for bachelorette parties at some point as well. They call them hen nights.
Shut the door.
So that's how I learned English. Yeah, I did a lot of weird things in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Walk us through a shirtless bartending bachelorette party experience. Were the guests respectful, or were they all over you, not realizing that they were dealing with a future star male model and comedian?
No, it was super sweet. I think, I don't know, all these, they call them hens nights in New Zealand, instead of bachelorette parties. But it was so wholesome. Like it was in Auckland, New Zealand, and all these women were like so sweet. I mean, maybe I'm so jaded, or my threshold is because of modeling. I mean, compared to the modeling people, like those girls were just like so sweet. We just played games. It was like a kid's birthday party, but with like middle-aged New Zealand women. We played like a game. Some of these games, what's it called? Like one where you have a bag and you have to jump with it or something like that. And I joined them.
Oh, like a sack
some
race?
games were like something like that. And then,
Like
and then some of the games had like obviously some peanut, like games, including, I don't even remember the games exactly, but obviously there's a lot of like peanut stuff for, like peanut straws, and they had to, I don't know. So some games were a little bit more sexual in tone, but like very wholesome.
Oh, you're saying penis. I thought you were saying peanuts. And I'm like, what peanut game could we be
Maybe
playing?
my German accent came through.
Penis game.
No,
Penis
I
game.
was thinking for a second if I could say penis on your show. I was like questioning myself halfway through. So I think
I was like, wow, New Zealand bachelorette parties, they hide the peanut, they guess the penis. Got it. Okay. So you've
like
had
jelly shots off my
off your body. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, stuff like that. Stuff like that. Yeah. But overall very wholesome. Like it was,
What a life, Mario. Like seriously.
Sheri, why don't Sheri, do you and your friends not get together like every couple of months and get a young male model and do shots off of his chest and stuff like that? I mean, surely you do.
Dude, well, starting now that I know that this is an option. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a thing.
I know a guy. I know when I said it sounded like I was like, it's the wholesome chair. And when I said it, I was like, it doesn't sound as wholesome, but it was actually, the setting was very wholesome and respectful, very consensual. It was all good.
So tell us about the first time you sold out a comedy show. Tell us what that felt like.
It was awesome. It was my first one, probably the New York Comedy Festival. And it was great because, a lot of my things, or a lot of my career was based on, my looks and my body. And selling out a comedy show and having people come to the show for my comedy was very rewarding. Because, a lot of people, when I even started comedy, they put you in a box. They go, oh, you're just a model. You shouldn't do comedy. You should just be ridiculously good looking. It's also being good looking is not like, it's not the norm in comedy, as you might know. So it's not very... it's not very celebrated. It's and a lot of guys, especially guys in comedy, sometimes get a little competitive over that. So it felt good to just have that validation of, oh, I did this, and people actually enjoyed the show and enjoyed the comedy. That's why every time on Instagram I post a stand-up comedy clip, when that goes viral, it gives me a lot more validation than like when I post a photo and it's like a good-looking photo and it gets a lot of engagement, because then I know it's for it's for the comedy and not for the looks. So yeah.
So Lamar, when as you're sitting here reflecting on, the challenge of being sidelined is just ridiculously good looking.
Yeah. that's always been a burden for me. I hate to be referenced as just eye candy. I really, really do. So that's not really been a huge problem for me. Let me ask you a quick question while we're talking about this, about some of your modeling deal. You were a judge on Germany's Next Top Model with Heidi Klum. Now, you must be reaching some sort of success as a model to be picked as a judge. How was that experience? Tell us about that.
Well, yeah. So I was not a full judge for the whole season. It was like for one episode. They wanted like a model expert for the episodes. And no, it was great though, because it was so funny. I met this guy and he was casting for Germany's Next Top Model. And then they had me on one of the episodes and they realized, oh, wait, you're actually German, because they didn't know at first. And then they liked me on the personality and stuff like that on camera. And then, yeah, it became like a bigger thing on the show. And it was great because also Heidi Klum is like, I mean, she's like the most famous German. Truly, I think she's like the most. Can you name another famous German except Hitler?
I am so glad that. I'm so glad she's eclipsed the other famous Germans.
For all of us. I think honestly, I mean, when you ask me, I ask Americans sometimes name a famous German. It's the same answer every single time. People always look at me awkwardly. They're like, "Oh well, you know that one guy." But no, she's an icon, right? So it was great working with her. And Germany's Next Top is also a huge show in Germany. It's bigger than America's Next Top Model, even though it's a German show, because it's just very relevant. And it was awesome. It was great to do something because a lot of my career was based, like it was all US focused. So I really enjoyed doing something in my homeland, in the Vaterland of Deutschland. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Here's my other question. Tell us how the American Idol thing went. I mean, did you sing good enough to get to that point, or was that doing what you did was what got you there in the Speedo and everything? Tell us about that.
Well, I don't know if you saw the whole thing, but I clearly cannot sing. So it definitely was not the singing that got me there. No, I'm a horrible singer. The only thing I can sing when I do karaoke, I sing Rammstein, which is like it's very German. I don't know. I can't sing. I did the thing. It was a friend of mine who was a casting director on that show. And he was like, yeah, I like your personality. I like your style. I like, you're silly. And I auditioned for them actually a few times. I had like meetings with the producers and stuff like that. And first I actually sang a song and they were like, no, we need a different angle. So then I kind of, just did the thing and was silly. It was like, it was basically like this modeling characters that just like, I just came from, it was a few years ago, right? So I just done the whole modeling thing. So I was just, it was like a Zoolander vibe where I just like showed up in a Speedo. And my whole idea was like, okay, I want to show people that we models can be more than just ridiculously good looking, So instead of being a model, I'm going to be a singer now. So I went on American Idol and did the singing thing. And the funny thing is, like, people ask me about this. I ended up doing this catwalk with Katy Perry, where we like did a catwalk battle, and it was like this iconic moment, very fun. None of this was rehearsed. It was all improv. I didn't know. I never had contact with her before. They didn't brief me. They didn't tell me what to do. I never told them what I was going to do. They knew about the Speedo because, obviously I wasn't, before they saw me in a Speedo, but then everything else was improvised. And I love that they were so cool. And I thought they were going to be a bit thrown off, especially like Luke Bryan. I thought he was going to be weird about that, but they were so fun. I loved it. It was so funny. And I was in there for a good 35 minutes, and then they had a really fun edit of it. So yeah, it was so funny to do that. It was
great.
Is
funny to watch. Very funny.
I adored the white knee-high socks. I mean, what a choice that was.
Yeah,
really
it's like
elevating that look.
Tennis player, yeah.
So, I mean, acting, right? Like that seems like it's what should come next. Is that something that you're interested in?
You know what? It's so interesting you bring it up because I started acting was actually what I focused on when I was modeling. I took acting classes in Times Square and I just was running around all the time, and that's all I was focusing on because that's usually modeling. Acting is there's a very clear career path there, and I love acting too. But you know what? Acting I'll do, and I love acting. I love the craft of it. I just don't like the industry as much. It reminds me a lot of modeling where your fate is being determined by a few gatekeepers, right? You have casting directors.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of power dynamics. Yeah. And I just love being in control. And I think social media is so rewarding because I can like nobody's telling me what I can do. And I'm very creative too. So sometimes following somebody else's vision is also difficult. Like I love coming up with my own concepts. I like writing every day. So my main focus is stand-up comedy. I don't do stand-up comedy to become an actor. I do stand-up comedy because I want to be a stand-up comedian. Like I want to tour and that's all I want to do. If acting comes, I'll do it for sure. I love acting, but I'm not going to chase it. So stand-up is first, 100%. And yeah.
I mean, you're just having watched your videos, you're just such a natural on camera. So I can see why the modeling thing and then the transition to social media. Have you performed at home in Germany as a comic?
No, that's so interesting. No, I'm currently applying for my green card. So I'm not allowed to leave the US as of now. And I started comedy in LA. So I have not done comedy in Germany or in German at all. I've only done it in English so far. So I'm very excited to go. Once I get my green card, I'm planning a little tour. So I started my tour now in the US, the German Efficiency Tour, and I'm excited to take it to Germany once I get my green card. It'll be interesting though how the jokes will translate because a lot of my stuff is about my perspective as a European on America. Right? It's a lot about like me making fun of American pride and Civil War reenactments and like a lot of the stuff about America or diners and stuff like that. So I wonder how it would translate when I talk to a German audience. I'd almost have to adjust some of the jokes. But yeah, and I also don't know if they laugh because they're Germans. We don't laugh a lot. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, that leads me to my next question. What is what is the vibe of German comedy? Because there's different genres of comedy. There's people that are like kind of insult comics and people that are narrative comics and people that are one-line artists, right? Storytelling, reflective, all of that. Like what is an example of German comedy?
Well, German comedy is very it's a lot more political. We have a lot of our origin because stand-up is definitely an American art form. It started here. In Germany, we have something called called cabaret, which is a lot more political. And what I noticed, a lot of stand-up comedians in Germany, even they have this they have a lot of the characters. They're not like just a guy. Like Dave Chappelle is just Dave Chappelle. It's not like he has a character. But in Germany, everybody's like Carrot Top. It's like some dude who's like puts on an accent and it's like, oh, I'm the guy from East Germany, and I'm like, the former GDR of Germany. They have like this whole character, and they have like a big head, like glasses on, weird outfits, where it's not real people. And in America, I feel like it's just your actual perspective, on life and you as a person, instead of like a weird character.
Yeah, that is so interesting. So for you to go home and do your act for your native Germans and in German, it would be like, this guy is very unusual for the audience, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's a big difference. It's a big difference. But I'm excited to see it when I go.
We're so glad that you could take some time to chat. It's been really fun getting to know you, and we're gonna post all your links and stuff so that everyone can find you and follow you as you're on the road. And I just hope, Mario, that wherever this journey takes you, it ends up in a booth at a diner somewhere with some onion rings and a milkshake.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's so funny. Thank you so much.
That's so cool. Mario, thank you for joining us. And we will we'll just wish you so much luck and success. You're not going to need the luck. We just hope all the success in the world finds you. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
You can follow Mario on Instagram at Mario Adrion, Adrion. He has a killer YouTube channel, and he also hosts the podcast Uncensored with Mario Adrion, which is unfiltered and raw and really, really entertaining. You can find that on Spotify. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Oddcast. You're the reason we make it. We'll see you next time. BOBANDSHERI.com.